I see a man with a Heidelberg scar and a bushy mustache.
That's the blackguard.
Today, we'll be talking about a legend, and not just any, a member of the iconic Addams family, Grandmama Addams. The same woman who once taught Wednesday how to hex a playground bully. That's right, she ain't your regular cooking, baking, sweater knitting granny. Well, unless the cookies are cursed and the knitting needles double as voodoo tools. She's been in the Addams family lineup since the original Charles Addams cartoons, but over the years, her backstory's been twisted more times than things risked. Grandmama's history is packed with mischief and dark family secrets. So let's crack open the cauldron and dig into the tangled origins of the Addams family's most unpredictable elder. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
How would you children like to come down to the moat and watch me wrestle with the alligator?
The origins of Grandmama. I know, she looks older than time itself, but before she was hurling hexes and stirring questionable stew in a skull-shaped cauldron, Grandmama Addams was just that one creepy old lady in Charles Addams' original New Yorker cartoons. You know the type, hunched back, wild Einstein-esque doll hair, nose like a broken wand, and a constant expression that says, "I've seen some things." And most of them involved human sacrifice. Back then, she didn't have a name, a backstory, or even a clear family role. She was just there, looming in the background like your weird aunt who lives in the attic. Now, Charles Addams wasn't big on explaining who was related to whom. Everyone just kind of existed in this gloomy little universe, without the burden of logic or family trees. But when people started poking around and asking questions like, who is that old witchy lady? Addams tossed out the name Granny Frump in early notes, which sounds less like a person and more like a noise you make when you sit down too fast. It wasn't until the Addams Family hit television in 1964 that Grandmama really got her groove and her name. The show needed a bit more structure for mainstream audiences, so characters got relationships with a few mildly disturbing hobbies. Grandmama was officially christened as the family's witchy elder. With her cackling laugh and tendency to carry live animals in her pockets, she fit right into the Addams family dynamic like a bat in a belfry. So where did Grandmama come from? Technically, a doodle. Emotionally, from the dark heart of satire itself. And thank darkness for that. Grandmama in the 1964 live-action TV series. In the 1964 Addams Family live-action TV series, Grandmama finally strutted herself into the spotlight, and she did so in style, wearing enough shawls and beads to qualify as a haunted fortune teller and the president of your local underground fencing club. Played by Blossom Rock, who looked like the human embodiment of a lightning bolt that had once struck a graveyard, this Grandmama was officially cemented as Gomez's mother. Apparently, whatever genetic soup Gomez came from included a healthy dose of charm-crafting madness. Blossom Rock gave Grandmama the energy of a woman who'd raised a Latin lover and possibly a few banshees along the way. She was the kind of elder who thought teaching children to fence blindfolded was character building. And let's not even talk about the time she tried to cure Pugsley's existential crisis with a handful of swamp leeches. Her favorite pastimes included cooking, although calling it cooking is generous. Her kitchen experiments looked like potions, sounded like potions, and honestly probably screamed like potions. Every meal was seasoned with graveyard dust and human hair. Viewers were left wondering whether she was feeding the family or preparing them for some kind of sacrifice ritual. And then there were her remedies, because she is a granny after all. Only this one wants to cure a cold with bat wings and fermented frog juice. Psychic readings were another of Grandmama's specialty. She'd grab a crystal ball and mutter something in an ancient, most probably made-up language, and offer fortunes that were usually more confusing than helpful. You might walk away knowing your future held great darkness, followed by laughter and a mysterious toe injury. Now, did that sound helpful? Not really. Was it entertaining? Absolutely. Grandmama also had a surprising taste for violence. Strictly as a hobby, of course. She dabbled in fencing and some boxing. She once challenged a guest to a duel simply because he insulted her marmalade. For a woman with one foot in the netherworld, she sure kept the other one firmly in the dojo. She was just enough to make you wonder if she was carrying something sharp. What made her iconic though were the running gags and one-liners. Her suggestions for solving problems were never normal. Have you tried a sleep potion mixed with powdered mummy? It was a common fix-it-all. At one point, she recommended turning Cousin It into a frog for talking too much. Her logic made zero sense, which was exactly the point. Grandmama operated in a reality where weird was normal and normal was just plain offensive. By the time the credits rolled on any episode, Grandmama had usually brewed something illegal in 47 states while consulting 3 different spirits for advice. And honestly, that's what made her a legend. Shifting identities. Grandmama or Granny Frump? If there's one thing more confusing than Wednesday's emotional range, it's figuring out whether Grandmama is Gomez's mother or Morticia's. The Addams family has flip-flopped so many times. It's like the writers were casting spells on the family tree just to mess with people. Let's untangle this gothic soap opera. In the 1964 TV series, Grandmama is firmly labeled as Gomez's mother. But fast forward to the 1991 and 93 films, and suddenly, Morticia has a mother named Granny Frump, played by Carol Kane. So now we've got 2 separate grandmother entities wandering around the same house. Granny Frump, Morticia's mother, who looks like she'd critique your funeral outfit, and Grandmama Addams, Gomez's magical mischief-making mom who probably dated a demon once and still gets mail from the underworld. Granny Frump, by the way, is a delightfully strange figure in her own right. She talks like she wandered out of a Victorian seance and accidentally ended up in a PTA meeting. She's prim, dramatic, and serves as a kind of undead version of the stereotypical embarrassing mom if your mom also summoned spirits and wore lace funeral hats at breakfast. Meanwhile, Grandmama, played by Judith Malina in the first film and Carol Kane again in the sequel, is basically the same actress playing both grandmothers in different contexts because chaos clearly runs in this franchise, just continues to be vaguely related and unbothered by all this identity swapping. No one in the family ever clarifies it. Gomez never says, "Hey, that's my mom," and Morticia never goes, "Please ignore her, she's from my side." That has to be some classic Addams logic. She's not just a witch. She's a multiverse anomaly in potion stains. Grandmama in animated adaptations and films. A. The 1973 and 1992 animated series Saturday Morning Hexes. Back when cartoons were either sugar-high chaos or thinly veiled disguised toy commercials, Grandmama found a way to slip onto screens with her broomstick energy. In the 1973 Hanna-Barbera series, she was voiced by Janet Waldo, whose performance gave Grandmama the charming energy of a school teacher who teaches potions on Wednesdays and raises gargoyles in her spare times. This version of Grandmama was still unmistakably witch-like, the pointy hat kind. Her aura was made up of someone who was banned from 3 dimensions for experimenting too hard. She comes at important points, like she was casting a spell to help Pugsley win a race or accidentally turning Lurch into a llama. I mean, probably. She was the go-to magical fix-it lady, with about a 10% success rate and a 90% chance of summoning something she couldn't quite control. Fast forward to the 1992 animated revival, and Grandmama returns with an upgraded voice by none other than Carol Channing. This Grandmama was louder and more chaotic. She looked like someone who was clearly having the time of her undead life. She once even tried to give the Addams pet spa treatments, which, knowing her, probably involves live flames and bat milk. We don't call that magical. We call that too magical. Everything she touched either caught fire or grew fangs. B. 1991 and 93 live-action films. Graveyard Glamour. Enter Judith Malina in the 1991 film. Her Grandmama had no time for subtlety. She was sass wrapped in layers of wool and sarcasm, with her bug-eyed glare and a voice that sounded like she gargled brimstone for breakfast. Malina's version leaned fully into the creepy spell-slinging crone aesthetic. She delivered lines like hexes and cooked meals that looked like the FDA's worst nightmare. She was the kind of grandmother who wouldn't just tell your bedtime stories, but summon the ghost of the author to read it to you live. Then, in Addams Family Values in 1993, Carol Kane stepped in with a twinkle in her eye and a voice like a cracked crystal ball. Her grandmama was snarkier, possibly possessed, but in a fun, brunch-ready kind of way. She was fully reimagined as Morticia's mother now, for reasons no one in the film bothers explaining. Addams logic, baby. She whipped up bizarre dishes like tongue tartare and tried to resurrect long-dead relatives during family dinner. Sweet? More like creepy. C. 2019 and 2021 animated films. Loud, Proud, and Bette Midler. When Bette Midler took over voicing Grandmama in the 2019 and 2012 animated movies, the character gained a new layer of absurdity. This Grandmama was bolder and brought some serious hocus-pocus energy into the Addams crypt. Gone were the hunched, secretive potion master days. This granny was a flamboyant spellslinger who'd throw a party with ghosts just to avoid brunch with normals. Even her chaos felt far more deliberate. She danced. She shouted. She crashed a road trip like a banshee on Red Bull. She even helped with family counseling, in her own way, of course. The movies turned her into comic relief with a pointed witch hat, cause they leaned more into classic tropes like crystal balls and bubbling cauldrons. D. Netflix's 2023 absence. A sinister omission. Then came Netflix's Wednesday, 2023, and sadly, there was no Grandmama, not even a spectral cameo. We got Uncle Fester, Gomez, Morticia, Lurch, Thing, but Grandmama ghosted harder than Wednesday's Tinder matches. There was a vague nod to family witches in the background, but no screen time. Whether Netflix is saving her for a dramatic entrance later, or just couldn't find a cauldron big enough to contain her energy, that omission really stung. But if Grandmama taught us anything, it's that witches never die. They just wait for better screenwriters. Appearance, powers, and personality. If Grandmama ever entered a beauty contest, she'd probably turn the judges into frogs and call it a Tuesday. She's never been about glamour, unless you count the kind of glamour that involves powdered skulls and robes that look like they were stolen from a haunted opera house. Her appearance is less senior citizen and more retired forest hag turned spiritual life coach. I mean, look at all the traits you need for that. Wild gray hair? Check. Like full-on frizzy thundercloud. Flowing garments? Absolutely. Usually with frayed hems and maybe a live rodent tucked in one of the pockets for emergencies. Her face also tells a story. Probably 12 stories. That are all cursed and slightly funny. Those deep set of eyes that says she hasn't slept since the Salem trials. Grandmama isn't cute or homely, but she's unforgettable, which, in Addams currency, is worth far more than beauty. And let's talk about those powers, shall we? Grandmama is basically your neighborhood apothecary, psychic, exorcist, love potion dealer, and chaos consultant all rolled into one spooky burrito. I mean, she is clearly the type of woman who can turn a headache into a talking goat and then claim it's part of the healing process. Fortune telling is one of her specialties. Give her a crystal ball and a minute of awkward silence and she'll give you a glimpse into your future, or at least a hauntingly vague riddle about great darkness near a sandwich. Her readings are theatrical. Maybe that's why she manages to sway the audience. Even though the readings are inaccurate, you almost want her to be right, because the alternatives are usually terrifying. Then, well, for the potion brewing, she has her personal lab, aka the kitchen. It is filled with vials of glowing ooze and bubbling liquids that may or may not be safe. She makes love potions, truth serums, invisibility brews, and probably once mixed something that turned Cousin It into a sentient pile of laundry for 3 days. Brewing disasters are her brand and she wears it proudly. And then there's her obsession with summoning spirits. She treats the afterlife like a social club. Need advice? Why not call Great Uncle Zed from Beyond the Veil? Want to chat with a Victorian ghost just for fun? Grandmama's already got the candles lit and a talking skull named Harold on standby. Her connection to the dead is casual, but also mildly disrespectful, just the way she likes it. Despite her unhinged hobbies, Grandmama is oddly nurturing. She's fiercely protective of Wednesday and Pugsley, often the one cheering on their more creative hobbies, like building guillotines or dissecting dolls. She's not exactly warm, but she's encouraging, in a yes sweetie, use more poison kind of way. She offers wisdom wrapped in riddles and love covered in cobwebs. Chaotic, right? Undeniably. Grandmama doesn't just cast spells, she is one. Marvelous verdict. Grandmama Addams is the glue that holds the Addams madness together with a dab of bat venom. Not to forget, who else can summon the dead like it's customer service? So, no matter how much the story changes, this woman has been the family's eccentric backbone across every version. We don't care if she's Gomez's mom, Morticia's mom, or just magically adopted by both. But Grandmama remains delightfully unpredictable, and that's what we love about her. So next time you think your family's weird, remember that at least your grandma doesn't keep a live raven in the fridge for flavor. Which version of her do you like the most? Do let us know in the comment section below. And if you've enjoyed diving into Grandmama Addams' legacy, don't forget to like and subscribe for more such character deep dives. Until then, stay spooky. We'll catch you in the next one.